Now, the B'nai says that these gilgulim, a gilgul where a person goes into a plant or an animal or a rock, is only a borrowed term. Because a real gilgul is when a person is born into a body from the beginning. But here, only the nefesh goes into the inanimate objects or the animals, and it suffers there. It's not the whole body. Not the whole neshama, the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayin, yechida, like we have by a gilgul by a person. And also, when a person goes into the objects, or animals, he remembers everything that he had in his previous life. And also, if he might also come into a person as in terms of a gilgul, in terms of an ibur instead of a gilgul. And there are three forms, basically, that a person can pass from one stage of life to the next. A gilgul, which is a certain part of the neshama that comes back. Not exactly the same part, but more or less the same. And it starts from birth. It doesn't leave the body until the body dies. An ibur is when a neshama comes in the middle of a person's life into a person, into a certain body. And why does it come in the middle of a person's life? Because the person is missing a few mitzvahs. Come into a complete gilgul he doesn't want. Because who knows if he's going to do any more of theirs and become even worse afterwards. So you should understand that a gilgul is even worse, even more difficult than Gehenna. It's better for a neshama to go through Gehenna than to go through gilgul. Why? Because look at your life here. Look at your whole life and try to see how much you actually enjoy it. Once, I was with the children, with my kids, in a Luna Park, in an amusement park. And there were tons of charedim, it was really packed. Everywhere there was all sorts of there were lines. The whole day we spent there. We went from place to place. When we came home, I said, let's make a calculation. How much did we actually enjoy? How much time did we actually get to have enjoyment and not waiting in line? We came to a conclusion that we were about 17 or 18 minutes on the rides, and all the rest of the time, the rest of the day, we were either eating or we were in line. So, like this is the whole life. We're really, really hungry the whole long period of time, and then we eat a steak. So how much time do we get pleasure for? A few seconds. It passes the throat, and that's it. Afterwards, we go on to the next pleasure. But all the pleasures that you have in life is almost nothing. Look at a person's life. He's small. There's nothing good. Afterwards, he's in his own ability to do whatever he wants. He does things, and then afterwards, you have children, little problems, big children, big problems. Afterwards, you have all sorts of. You get older, and then this thing hurts, and that hurts, and your limbs start falling apart. It's our luck that happens slowly, and we get used to it. If a person would wake up in the morning, and in one moment he would be 20 years older, he would look in the mirror, he would scream, it'd be scary. Now you get a wrinkle here, a wrinkle there, the eyes, their hair gets white, the teeth fall out, your eyes don't work so well. You get used to it, you like yourself. It happens slowly. If it happened all at once. It's very important for a person how he looks. My mother got out of, when she woke up from her unconsciousness when she was sick before she died, well, we were all standing around the bed, and she looked at her daughter, and she said, and the first question she asked after she woke up, after a week of being unconscious, she said, how do I look? Take care of me, help me look presentable. Realize what, after a week of being unconscious, what the first question is. It shows just how important it is to a person the way he looks. But still, however important it really is, the body is a body. When a person dies, all the wrinkles that he was worried about, They all turn into dust in the end. In any case, I'm not trying to say these things in order to make a person feel bad, just that a person should understand what's important to him as well. If you think your body is what's important to him as well, and look at what happens to the Hollywood stars when they start getting older and they stop looking so nice. It's one of the biggest difficulties for them. Last Friday, I heard the news was driving the kids, pick up the kids, and they interviewed a certain model, a woman. And she deals a lot with sick people, sick boys that have sick children that have matwa. It's very interesting. A very successful girl. They were asking, and how does she have time to take care of sick children? So she said something like that. They asked her, tell us a little about your life. And she said that us stars, Hollywood stars or some type of stars, models, we're very lonely. There's a lot of loneliness. It looks from the outside that we're shining and everyone wants to be close to us and friends with us. But after all the beauty and everything, there's a lot of loneliness, a lot of emptiness. The person tries to go into the light, the first thing they're afraid of is that someone's going to try to to use them in some way. It makes them scared of people, things like that. And this glory that they have is very short, maybe 10 years, 8 years. That's the years of glory in Hollywood, and that's it. What else is left? Most people that I knew that were 70 or 80 years old, they look back at their life, and they look at their children and they say, oh, it's too bad I didn't bring more children. Didn't have more children. They realize at the end that the continuation is left by them, the children they leave. Notice that, if a person has children, all of them go in a bad way. That's very difficult. It hurts the heart. And a certain woman called me, a blind woman, has one son. She wasn't a religious woman. But her family was Holocaust survivors, and she had feelings towards tradition and Judaism. And her only son said to her mother, that he wants to get married. She wants to get married to a certain woman. And the girl comes over to the house, and they talk, and start talking. And it turns out that the girl is not Jewish. What does it mean she's not Jewish? Her mother, her grandmother, had a conservative conversion. This is a difficult question. If she's Jewish or not. As far as we're concerned, it's not considered a Jew. She's not considered a Jew. And this woman was pressuring me very much. She was crying. She was trying to tell me to speak to me, to do something. And I said to her, why are you so upset? And in any case, you raised them totally not religious. What is really bothering you? So I was just trying to wake her up to see what's the big deal. To wake her up to realize what's happening. And she said, I'm not able to tell my brothers and my sisters, everyone, my whole family, that my son's marrying a non-Jew. And what's going to be left with me? He's my only son. And there's going to be nothing left from from the continuation of my family, from me. His children are not going to be Jewish, and everything's going to be completely lost. So the Rav says, I'm going to write a little bit about the punishment of people that come to all sorts of gilgulim for kapara on their veils. There's almost nobody in the whole world that could be saved from this gilgulim. We didn't finish the options of the tikkun that we were speaking about before. The first one is Gilgul, the second one is Ibra. We didn't mention the third one. We didn't explain why a person has to come in Gilgul. We can say there's a person, there are people in this world, and because of all sorts of reasons, he wasn't able to do certain mitzvahs. For example, 2,000 years before this generation, all the Jews that lived in Chutzlaretz, they didn't do the mitzvah, usually Eretz Yisrael. We're here, even though we're not on their level, but still we have this mitzvah. They need this mitzvah to get the tikkun. Because when they come out of this world without this mitzvah, it's not going to be. For this reason, therefore, there's a lot of Iburim. Because they need this mitzvah, they should Eretz Yisrael. And they come into us in order to experience it, to get this mitzvah. So if there's a certain tzaddik, that for a certain reason he was forced, not able to be kind of certain mitzvah, he wasn't able to come to Eretz Yisrael, to do Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. They had to live in Chutzlaretz. They were lacking this mitzvah, this mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael. We're also looking at all the Beis HaMikdash and all the other the mitzvahs that are dependent on the Beis HaMikdash. When the Beis HaMikdash comes, there's going to be a lot of people. Everyone's going to want to be a part of this. On the other side, he doesn't have to come to do it. He needs so many affairs. On the other side, he needs these mitzvahs which he didn't complete. So then he comes into a person in the middle of his life, before he dies, in order to do this mitzvah that he's not malachim. For example, there's some rare mitzvahs like petafama. A normal person could do a mitzvah of petafama. When a person does this rare mitzvah, there's a very big chance that a lot of Iburim will come into him. Because he's about to do a mitzvah that a lot of people didn't do it. And if there are some tzaddikim in Shemayim that are attached to this person's idea, then he can come into him at that time. When you go into him, this person benefits. Why does he benefit? Because he gets a big push of kedusha from this person who comes into him. And this person will stay into him, but is an Ibor, as long as he doesn't do any averes. If he's about to do averes, or specifically get angry, then the neshama won't stay inside. Why do I have to get ruined from this anger? So from the moment that this neshama comes into this person, and he feels all sorts of uplifting experience, if he knows if he does certain averes, then the neshama will leave, and he's going to lose his fish. On the other side, there could be Iburim, there could be a concept of Iburim that could damage. The person doesn't avail. And there's a certain neshama that's floating around, that's very much attached to this sin, it can go into it. And all of a sudden this person, he could do all sorts of very bad things. If you ask him why are you doing all these bad things, he says, I don't know. Something came into me, I don't know. And really, it could be something went into him. And something that went into him could be two forms. It could take a tramp, or it could throw him off the fences. If he's taking a tramp, so he pushes him to do averes, but he doesn't go into his mind and doesn't drive him crazy. It just pushes him from the outside. If he tries to take the steering wheel, then it's called a dibuk. It's a much more difficult situation to deal with a dibuk. People with split personalities. Things like this could be because of most of the crazy people in the crazy house are people like this. They have all sorts of things like this, and they give them all sorts of injections just to cut them down, cut them out. But they don't. If they know how to take out the dibukim, then it can make them better. There's a reason, though, why these spirits, these dibukim, go into a person. The person opens up an opening for them to come in. They don't come into the person. By tzaddik, they can't go in. They can't go into a tzaddik. There are all sorts of reasons. Could be a trauma, could be also a young person could do a big averes. Feels bad. It can also come from previous kibbutz. So we can get the dibukim out sometimes from doing the mitzvahs. The real dibuk is very hard to get out, to get rid of. There are very few people that could get rid of the dibukim Like the reason the time you tell them you want to take out the Gilgul. And the third thing is a Gilgul that's like an Ibor. It's a medium between a Gilgul and a balance between a Gilgul and an Ibor. The person is born with his body, with the body. And someone that's born with the body, but still is taking like a tramp, taking a ride. He has to live with the neshama, with this from birth till death. Can't leave in the middle. But it doesn't drive. It's not leading the person. Sitting next to the driver. In general, the driver is what you feel you feel yourself. And if there are other neshamas that are, if there are other drivers that are, if other people that are there doing a tramp, taking a ride, then the driver is very hard for them. The one who's taking a tramp, taking a ride, he's experiencing, he could affect a little bit from the side, but he's the one mainly experiencing. Sometimes you feel certain feelings and it could be coming from them. It's not that the other person's mind, the one who's taking a ride, comes inside of them, but he feels feelings, or he feels like a voice inside of them, do like this, do that kind of thing. It's himself. And this voice certain woman in the background is saying now that she sometimes hears voices also. So Aarmoni continues, he says, it's an Odi that says, speaks the word of Sefer. And he says in the beginning, he wanted to kill himself. When he was very young, he wanted to kill himself. And he felt like there was no point in life. So he decided at night that he would drink he had some sleeping pills. Put up an alarm clock, he didn't want to bother him. He set it with 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to know everyone's sleeping, and I'm going to take the pills, I'm going to die. What happened is, at 3 o'clock in the morning he woke up. Instead of taking the pills, he said, I'm disgusted with myself. And he said, well, if I feel bad with myself, then there's me and there's myself. Who are these people? And he started thinking for a moment before he took these pills. And he realized that our thoughts is not our neshama, it's not us. Our thoughts are like a barrier that stop us from going into the neshama. So he developed a whole system how to push away the thoughts and to go inside to feel the neshama. This is what we're looking for ourselves, to recognize our neshama. These thoughts we use in order to understand Torah, and to develop ourselves. And when I want to connect myself to my neshama, I have to push away the thoughts and attach to something much deeper. Many times these things, you can find the neshama and even another neshama that's blocking me from getting to my own neshama. This is the situation which is called Gilgul. It's like an Ibor. It benefits only from the mitzvahs. It doesn't get damaged from the averos. It gets damaged only from the fact that he has to be sitting around Russia the whole time for 70 or 80 years. We'll only get pleasure from the mitzvahs and from the averos. They won't be judged from. So it's good for him on one side, but on the other side, it's very difficult to be with the Russia for 70 years. Not a good experience. This is part of the tikkun that he gets in this world as the Ibor. Now we see 3 different situations. And you learn from this. When a person speaks to people, just be very careful. You don't know who's inside of them. even though the driver is Russia, I didn't know maybe this person also has other neshamas. They just have to pass by. They're suffering because this is what they have to suffer to be being with him. So how can you judge him? He has other neshamas inside of him, by evil. Sometimes they give you this Yisayim to be next to a bad person. And that's when you have to give good to him, not just to the person who's next to you, but also to those neshamas that are experiencing life with him. If you do good things for him, then also those neshamas will want to give good back to you. Now our problem is we experience the whole world in a very limited way. A bad person, you hate him right away. So the problem is, if you look in this house, I've been living in this house for about 30 years, and there are others that live in this house, they feel like this house is really theirs. There are spiders here that live in the corners that have been here for a few years, and they are sure that this is their house. They feel like I'm just a guest. Our perception of the reality is very, very limited. Today, for example, during Kriya Shema, I picked up my tzitzis to kiss them, and for some reason, I decided to look at the tzitzis. So I looked at all sorts of little brown dots, and little sand or dirt around those on the tzitzis. And I thought to myself, if they asked me, they showed me all sorts of different types of tzitzis, and they asked me, which tzitzis are yours? I wouldn't be able to recognize them. I've been davening with this talis for 20 years, and I don't even recognize it. I don't even know it. One little aspect of recognition is not just this. Do I know my children? Do I know my wife? Do I know my own house? I live in a certain dream of my own existence. If something happens, chas v'shalom, sometimes a person says, "Oh, I wish I was better friends with them. I wish I want to know him better. I wish I knew him better." There's no end, though. You put in your effort into one thing. You have 11 children. You can't put effort into other people. You can't help other people. You can't connect to the whole existence. We only attach ourselves to a very, very small percentage of the real existence. We don't really perceive anything that goes on. We're only a small fraction of what goes on. We spoke in previous shiurim. We spoke about the neshama is chelek kamima. The Kadosh Baruch Hu gives a part, and that's the chelek kamima. The person is born, and tzelem is what the parents give. It's like clothing that's on, dresses the neshama, and it comes from the parents. And the type of tzelem is dependent on what the parents were thinking at the time they were together. Time they have relations, and the tikkun that a person has to do is connected to the tikkun of the parents. This is what obligates the child to give kibbud abayim, because the parents gave the clothing for the neshama of the child. Sometimes it could happen that the neshama could be very, very great, but the tzelem could be very, very low. It could be very miserly, and could bring the neshama down very much. This is what the parents gave to him. It's like the spiritual genetic inheritance. That's what it's on us. And that's the main tikkun. The main tikkun of a person is to fix his tzara. The neshama, we said, it's dependent on three different things. Where was it not in Rishon? Where it fell left, where another Rishon sinned. What happened in the previous couple? Where it started, where it ends. That's the potential from the beginning to the end. What was in the middle also affected a lot. The whole of the Gibun. Person has a lot of children, you can see right away. A child you see right away is midas from a very young age. Miserly child is going to be miser. He's going to be miser even when he's a little kid. A different kid is going to even give the bamba to the fish. It's not something they teach you. It's how he is. It's a nature. The bad kid. From a very young age, he's already breaking the cat's tails. Nobody ever taught him to do it. It's just like that. There's certain type of anger inside it. His whole life he has to fight against these bad midas. If he's successful. It is possible. A person has the ability to change midas. The main avoda is being the tekken itself. This levush. We don't work with so much. Maybe in the next Gilgal, he's going to be more perfected. In this world, this Gilgal is the energy, the electricity that runs the social. So the neshama itself is also set based on the parents, but the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives it. So what the parents were thinking about, that's the first thing. The second thing is if they Kaddish themselves, if they wash their hands before. And the third thing is if they know the ways of Hashem, meaning what time to be together, what time to have relations. There's a difference between Erev Shabbos, after Chitzos, and Yom Kippur in the middle of the day. There's a difference. Depending on, that would cause different type of Hashem to come down. These are the three factors. Hashem will be dressed up inside the Tzalim. And the Tzalim affects us more, personally, than the Neshama. If the Tzalim is very, very perfected and the Neshama is very low, then it's much easier for us, much better for us than if we were the opposite. If the Neshama is very high and the Midas went up. It's the Midas that brings us down to the ground more than the Neshama. Sometimes the people that are far from Torah, but they have amazing leaders. If these people would be closer to children, they could go very high. Rav Yegin once told a story about a parents who had young daughter. They want to save money, so they put her in a religious band. She sees every time in Gan that they light Shabbos candles. One time she saw in the house they don't light candles, so she found some money in the house and she went to Himakoa and she bought some candles. She put two nearest neshamas, and the parents see what she's doing. And then Neshama's lit, and and the parents said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, I lit one for you, one for mommy, one for Tati." And they were closer to children. After they saw something that's very scary, and then Neshamas for people that die. Now, one more point that we spoke about. The Rizal says there are a few things that were discussed here. And the person sometimes going to Kafakela. What is Kafakela? We spoke about Gilgul, Ibur, and the Gilgul that's like Ibur, and we spoke about Ganon. We mentioned Ganon, I guess. We said the Gilgul is worse than Ganon, and the worst is Kafakela. What is Kafakela? You're not so to go into Ganon after they die. If a person goes into Ganon, it's already schus. Because Ganon can only be 12 months. The person who already goes into Ganon, he finishes it, and then he goes into Gan Eden. The Neshama goes in from Gilgal to Gilgal, also to different Durand, Sinachai, Dada, and Kafaka. Sefer wrote Pitaya, Vida Pitaya. He dealt a lot with also the Gibun and spirits. The sefer is called Neshamas Masakos. And he speaks about a story about how he spoke to a dibuk. A dibuk of a person. He said, why did you go into this person? And the dibuk said, when a person dies, the person needs a little. This is a side thing, it's not what Vida Pitaya says, but the person needs a levush. And that levush becomes his spiritual body that will get rewarded or punished from. If a person has no body with which he did mitzvahs, then he'll be without anything. The nefesh is made through actions. If he doesn't have actions, then he doesn't have actions of mitzvahs, and he doesn't have a levush for the nefesh. And through speech, he gives a levush for ruach. If all the time he's just saying lashon hara, never saying good things, there's no levush for his ruach. And the levush for the neshama is machshavas, a person's thoughts. If a person's always thinking bad things, how to steal and how to do bad things, then he won't have a levush for his neshama. What will happen to a neshama like this? Doesn't have any levush, doesn't have any clothing, so to speak. He's alone. So he says that as neshama was running away, and an evil angels run after it with a stick of fire, and it's ready to hit the neshama. So what happens is the neshama is always running. You can't stop. When could it stop? If it goes into something. It goes into a domain, and sometimes in dibur, goes into a person, doesn't want to go out. Because when it goes out, then this evil angel will hurt the dibuk. That's how the dibuk goes into a person. And this is what's called kafakela. These dibukim are in kafakela. And the reason says here, sometimes they go into Gilgal for 20 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years. It all depends on the sins that a person did in this world. The tzaddikim and Talmid Chachamim, the fire of Gehenna can't roll over them, can't burn them. So if there's tzaddikim or people who are in Torah, if they also do theirs, they have to come back into Gilgal. They can't go into Gehenna, since the Torah protects them. A woman, on the other hand, since she doesn't have a mitzvah to learn Torah, she never has to come back into Gilgal. She could always go into Gehenna. If she does come back, yeah. Could be because she wants to help her husband. Sometimes you see a married woman and have children, and she cares more about the children than about the husband. Sometimes people get divorced, instead they focus on the children. Sometimes it's exactly the opposite. If a woman comes here for her husband, then these children which she received in this world, the reward and punishment will for sure affect a little bit, but the main thing is her husband. She's not going to be with her children in Gan. She's going to be with her husband in Gan. If people understood this, then people would act very differently. Inside the neshamas of a man or a woman, there used to be one, and they're separated into two. The male side went into the male, and the female side went into the female. Sometimes it happens that two people comes here in this world, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the person does bad affairs and they marry somebody's opposite. Most people nowadays don't marry their sisters because people do affairs, and since they do affairs, they don't get their batzos, they don't get their real zivug. They get someone else. If there's a woman who's the giver. She's in charge. She could have chosen not to come back into this world. The worst is if a person chooses to come back here and not to help her husband. This Russia can often lose his own wife and get someone else. These generations are very difficult. These generations just happens a lot. What would happen here? One person takes a certain woman, and that woman is supposed to marry someone else. And someone else didn't receive her because he was also not there. So someone else comes and takes her. That's what it means. Shemi Keduna have the Gemara speaks of that. So the one of them doesn't have a bazug now, he takes someone else. That's the whole chain. Each person is stealing from the next. In a generation like ours, which is full of preachers. Before she gets married, she's already been with 10 men. The chances that she's actually going to find herself with her proper benzer is very small. Proper husband is very small.